Lancashire.
In a world of polluted, gridlocked cities, the Metrolink saves over 2 million car journeys a year. The tram, it seems, is back.
Classic trains steam into the new year on 4, starting Monday at 8:30.
And we're on track now on 4, in all steamed up.
The guidebooks will tell you half the population of England lives within an hour's drive from this place. But we are presently underneath the Peak National Park, the most visited park in Europe. You can't tell from down here, but with 22 million visitors every year, this park is bursting at the seams. And yet unused and almost forgotten for 30 years, over 20 miles of preserved railway track bed and tunnels run the length of this park. With every year, it's more clear that this success in attracting visitors just can't be sustained. Not unless you're prepared to help protect the park from the millions who want to visit here. The railway is one solution. No wonder the locals are all steamed up. Back amongst the people who live and work around the Peak Park, a vision is beginning to emerge of the possibility of a born-again railway, a line dedicated to transporting tens of thousands of those visitors.
Back in 1974, when the Peak Rail Society was formed, our aim was to reopen this line all the way so that we could bring the tourists back into this valley and get them off all the roads. This is an exact replica of the Midland Railway's line through Millersdale, as it was at the turn of the century, 1960 to be precise, just after the Midland Railway had built the second viaduct and remodelled all the track work here. The reason I built this model was because in 1968 British Railways were going to close this line, and I thought at the time that it would be nice just to let people come and see what this railway originally looked like before it was closed. Of course, today now we've got talk that the line might just reopen, which, if it does happen, is good news to me. It took me and my mother and some other volunteers 5 years to build this. Even now it's not finished. And this is a line that clearly should never have been closed.
The pleasant market town of Bakewell is the only major population centre within the boundaries of the park. And even on early spring days, it's already busy. But its main street is the crowded A6 trunk road. It can't be widened, and the park laws will not permit a bypass. The locals are already looking elsewhere for a possible solution.
We're just running parallel now to the A6, the main A6 road, which is just parallel. But when we actually come down on Bank Holiday Mondays, when the this whistle, the audiences are opposed. We see people on the A6 in the traffic jams. The traffic jam is right from vehicles, right up back to Matlock, and the traffic, he boops his hooter, his whistle, and then when he comes back again, the traffic's still in the same position, and he gives his hooter again, and all the people in the cars wait.
Presently, the Peak Railway Company can't help Bakewell's traffic problems. It's not a local transport system yet. It's still only a preserved steam bus railway with a few miles of track running in the outskirts of the park. And it's stuck there. To get any further and break out from this confinement and forge a link with the track bed and tunnels inside the park, they couldn't do better than listen to the people at East Lancs Railway. For there, an old coal line has been used to break out of the valley that trapped their railway. But escape into the larger world wasn't easy for East Lancs. To make it possible, they had to build the steepest gradients to leapfrog the new Metrolink tram system. Next, they bridged the motorway to get the line to Rochdale. Now it's a case of steam trains back to steam trains in 2 generations. East Lancs always thought big.
Well, this is where the East Lancashire Railway started in 1972. And we came in here with just a steamroller, a small steam locomotive, a diesel locomotive, in fact 5 pieces of rolling stock. We were trapped within the yards and the confines of this old building for over 16 years, planning to build an East Lancashire Railway, 9-mile railway.
This used to be a BR badge. Well, now it's an East Lancashire Railway badge. Unfortunately, Dr. Beeching got rid of me, and now I drive trucks and trains on East Lancashire Railway. This is the loco, our first steam loco that we operated here, which is ex-Burnley gas board. We used to run brake van rides up and down the shed yard with that one. It's a good little loco and it's still running.
Once free of the engine shed yard, the way was clear for the East Lancs people to drive a railway the full length of the Irwell Valley, from Bury just north of Manchester to Rawtenstall in the foothills of the Pennines. Of course, East Lancs Railway didn't do it alone, and help, when it did come, arrived from an unexpected quarter.
There are 5 valleys in Greater Manchester. The Irwell Valley is the largest. And many would say, including myself, it was the most polluted, presenting the biggest problem. And in that sense, it was a massive problem for planners to face and come up with solutions. We hope we found one which is a success story.
The local government solution was breathtakingly simple. Back a volunteer railway company and transform the old rail line through the valley.
Well, the East Lancs Railway is opposite of any other railway. Unlike the Keighlin-Worth Valley Railway and the North Yorkshire Moors Railway, these were railways that were built in regular tourist attractions. We had to build the dream. Once the industry came into decline in the valley, the dye works, the paper mills, the cotton mills all closed, nature took hold, and it's changed it back into what is a very pleasant area.
It was the perfect reversal. If preserved railways traditionally run through great national parks or places of outstanding natural beauty, why not reverse the process and create a park around a preserved railway?
The boost has come from the local authorities who've seen the potential of this. They've opened up footpaths by the river, picnic areas, and there's a partnership that we're working. The tourists can enjoy the railway and enjoy the natural countryside as it used to be.
It was a double bonus for Chairman Trevor Jones. As a 13-year-old, he'd walked this very line, delivering his railwayman dad his lunch in a pudding bowl. So for him, that local partnership was a consummation devoutly to be wished. It pulled tourists and locals into areas of the valley that had literally been abandoned. More to the point, when it was up and running, it even paid for itself.
The costs stacked in the favour of redeveloping the railway. It was quite clear that if you had to address all the liabilities and the problems of crossing and recrossing the Irwell, the railway option, before it deteriorated to a point where you were talking about crazy figures, was worth arresting at that point and getting back in shape. And in that respect, as long as the volunteers operate the railway, the figures make sense.
Howard can support guarantees an army of volunteers. From his office, he overlooks a successful railway.
These are the offices of Bury Council Planning Department. For many years, I was the Assistant Director of Town Planning. On my retirement, I came down these stairs, I walked into Bolton Street Station here, and I signed on as a ticket collector.
I was Director of Engineering at Bury for some years, and for my sins, they subsequently made me responsible for the bridges, tunnels and viaducts on this line between Bury and Rottenstone. So what do I do when I retire? But volunteer to be a guard on the railway line.
With evidence like that, you wouldn't need to be Oliver Stone to develop a conspiracy theory about links between Bury Planning Department and the East Lancs Railway. And quiet tales are told about plans for bridges being adjusted to accommodate the future needs of the East Lancs. It's not only the planning department that's been adept at helping. Everyone gets involved. Local enthusiasts recreated the old station at Bury and cobbled it together from bits and pieces from all over.
Well, this is Bolton Street Station, and as you can probably see, it's a mixture of architectural styles. Now, over here, we've got a building which is rather unique. It dates from around 1954 and was built by British Rail. Here is, by contrast, a very old building, and it was actually built out of modular units from Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway signal boxes. So it's obviously part of the period. And over here, there is a building which originally was part of the Bury Corporation tramway depot, and it was dismantled stone by stone and re-erected here on the station. Reason because the architectural style fits in with the type of building which would have stood here originally.
It isn't a matter of just punching tickets, it's talking to people, which is something I do enjoy. I meet all sorts. The railway, I think, is run by retired people, unemployed, unemployable, eccentrics, a strange amalgam of people, perhaps of which I am one.
This is the bedroom. It's a little bit small, but it does for me. This is the lounge. Did all the work myself, and as you can see, I'm a bit of a railway freak. I joined the railway in 1982, and I became the railway painter. And I paint everything from signal posts, water towers, the railway station. In fact, anything that it doesn't move, I'll paint it. And I like being here. I mean, that's what made me home here. I really love it. You can't beat the East Lancs Railway. It really is the place to be.
Dave Taylor asked permission to park his new home, named for his wife Margaret, on this railway siding. So intertwined is his life and this railway.
Right, this was just a tip. And I decided over the years to turn it into a decent garden. I was just fed up with the mess and the state of this place. So as you can see, I started over there and gradually worked my way down through the picnic area into the fish pond. And then 4.5 years ago, my wife passed away, and I didn't want to bury her in a cemetery, so the railway agreed to be putting her ashes in the garden, and that's where they are to this day.
I came to the railway in 1986 because I've always been a railway enthusiast, and I wanted to do something involved in a railway. Gradually I became a guard. No one knew I was a priest, but as time went on they found out, and I was asked on one occasion to bury the ashes of Margaret in the Garden of Remembrance, and then Roger in his will wanted his ashes scattered from a moving train onto the line, and they asked me to do that as well, and I was absolutely delighted.
East Lancs specialises in finding comfortable round holes for square pegs.
I am the carriage and wagon director on East Lancashire Railway, and in real life and my private life, I sell Smarties and Kit Kat.
This is a Great Western observation saloon, used by directors of the Great Western Railway. It's been restored by Pete Waterman, who's, like ourselves, a railway enthusiast, and it's a great privilege to me and one of the perks as chairman to be able to use it.
No, you talk to other planners and they will say that their key to success was different. Ours happened to be a railway. We had an active volunteer force who wanted to progress their own dreams, and a partnership was forged between the local authorities and the voluntary sectors and the communities. The railway brought prosperity to the valley in the 1850s, and in those days the valley was known as the Golden Valley. Hopefully the railway, based on being a tourist attraction, has brought those golden days back again.
For Brian Topping, whom Dr. Beeching's cuts reduced from a train driver to a truck driver, what has been lost in terms of the railways can't be forgiven. For him, it's become a private vendetta.
You get all the government now whinging about them, about a bit on rail. What rail? What railway? There's no railway into Rottenstall apart from the Preserve Railway. Where in BR days, there was a railway into Rottenstall. The passenger service into Rottenstall. There isn't now, only goes on the weekend. They're the same up and down the railway. They've closed it, it's gone.
That long, dark winter of disillusionment for the railways and the supporters seems to be frozen in time and memory. This is the final irony. For reasons no one can fathom, all the preserved railways up and down the country are charged twice as much to move their steam engines on the mainline railway network than it costs to have them transported by road. So that's how visiting locomotives are moved, on the motorways, and not on the railways they were built for.